Ever since I was a young and I was into rapping 20 years later and I'm still here yapping. Guess I got so much to say, so I'm trying to educate all of us. I hope together we can elevate. Time flies and our life is moving so fast. What's the forecast? Good vibes to be broadcast. So come and chill with me as we let the bad vibes blow past. This is Shout Out Podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of the Shout Out Podcast. Today we have a special guest with us today. He's actually the first non-Naga guest on our episode, also the first 6-footer on our episode. He's a chartered accountant by profession, and he runs a business called India Trail, which is a Northeast travel experience company. And welcome to the show, Rohan Abraham.
Thank you for having me here.
Yes, thank you for making the time out and the trouble. You had to travel from Kohima, and you're heading back today, obviously,
Yes,
right? Straight after this.
Yep.
So let's get straight into it. The pandemic. The pandemic has been tough for many of us. So I asked this question to all the guests who come here. The first question is always, how has it treated you? How has the experience been? What are some of the lessons that you've learned through the pandemic?
Okay, that's a good question. I think in the beginning, the first few months of the lockdown, nobody had a clue what was going on. So we just shut shop and sent all our staff home. Office was shut. There was no business coming in. Everyone had cancelled programs. So it was a bit of a rough time because nobody knew what was going to happen. Nobody knew how long it was going to be for. Every time we thought the lockdown was going to end, they extended it by another couple of weeks. So there was a lot of flux. Experience-wise, I think it taught us a lot of lessons. It taught us how to be a little more conservative. We thought we were the cat's whiskers, great travel agency, bringing people everywhere.
Right.
One shot, everything.
At one go,
yeah. So it was great, humbling experience. We learned how to handle our money. We learned how to manage our people. I think the way we do business now has completely changed. So in a way, it has helped us. But I think we came out of that with our neck just above the water. And I feel for the people who didn't.
Right.
So it has taught us a lot of lessons. So that's how I would.
And your entire experience here, with the pandemic, was you were here in Nagaland, or did you travel at all?
No, I was here for almost 2
from
years.
from the
right from the beginning. In fact, I'd even taken up a place in Merima, so I was so cut off from everyone else.
Okay, why was that? Why?
I wanted a nice place on the outskirts of town, and I found.
Okay, when all this was happening.
No, before actually, I'd moved a couple of months before.
Okay.
So in a way, it was great because I was out in the wilderness, beautiful place, nice outdoorsy sort of area. But between the first and the second lockdown, I shifted right next to my office, closer to people, closer to the shops.
Right.
Yeah. The second lockdown was quite easy for me actually.
Okay. What is something that you've learned or taken away from this pandemic the most? What's the biggest sort of lesson?
I think the single largest lesson would be not to take anything for granted. We assumed that business would be continuing. We assumed that clients will keep coming. We assumed that travel will happen as it normally does.
Right.
Businesses will continue as they normally do. And this COVID thing has just removed the foundations of everything. So we now have to plan everything fairly carefully. We have to plan for what if. We have to plan
contingency plans, right? Yes.
So that's that. Not taking things for granted and making sure that you think through everything before you do the next time. So there's a negative and a positive to it.
Definitely. Plan Bs are very important.
Big time.
Let's get the shout outs done. So I'll start off, and then after that you can have a shout out. So this episode's shout out goes out to the Orchid Grounds. For those of you who don't know where that is and what that is, it's a place in Burma camp, and it's a lovely place. They have different sort of facilities and amenities there. They have a futsal ground called the City Futsal. They have a PNS airsoft arena, I guess you'd call it, where the pictures will pop out. You can see it's a very fun place to go and chill. And also they have a gym called City Gym. And so shout out to Sumika and Ira and the rest of the people there who are running that entire place, Orchid Grounds. Your shout out.
I was there, right?
Yeah, you can look at the camera.
So after this whole COVID issue, I think we came out of this, just about fine. But I do know a lot of stories where people have not been fine. They have had issues. So I don't have a shout out to any specific person, but to all of you who have been running businesses or struggled through the pandemic and didn't make it out quite as okay as us. Shout out to you guys for hanging in there. And if there's anything that we can do to help, please do not hesitate to approach. I've just come back from Sikkim, where I've heard about horrid stories of, drivers committing suicide because they've taken loans, and I'm sure there are stories everywhere like this. So yeah, in our small little ways, if we can do something to help you guys, please, we all need to get back on our feet. So to all of you.
Great shout out because you just told me about this earlier. Like, you came back from Sikkim and you even heard stories about, like very unfortunate stories about taxi drivers committing suicide because of the loans that they have taken for, like, purchasing the car, and now because of the COVID situation. Very unfortunate. I'm sure in Nagaland, maybe not, maybe we haven't heard of them, but I don't think there have been any suicide cases as such, but definitely we know a lot of people. I mean, I personally know so many people who have been, like, severely affected by this pandemic, and it just goes to show how important, like this is something that no one could have planned for, right? Like a pandemic of this magnitude and this size, but just goes to show how important having a plan B or having contingency, different businesses spread out where money is coming from different avenues and not just relying on one thing.
True.
Right?
I think the other advantage that Nagaland has is that, yes, of course, businesses would have been affected, but I don't think there is a single family that goes without a roof over their head, food on the plate. May not be so easy to come by.
Somehow manage.
Yes. I think the general family sizes are larger, and everybody sort of takes people under their wing. I think that's one good thing that I've noticed here. So people might have struggled a bit, but it may not be so evident.
Right.
And I think COVID has humbled a lot of people. Like, so to ask for help when you're an established person or someone
I get that.
on your own feet
Yes.
is difficult. It's not everyone can do it.
It is.
It's brought a lot of people to a point where you have to. And how do you do it? So I feel for these guys. So
definitely.
We were very lucky. I mean, we were really, really lucky to have come out of it still standing.
Yeah, very few people. I mean, when you look at numbers wise, percentages wise, have actually managed to just even keep themselves afloat.
Yep.
Yeah. Another thing about the helping thing, when you're just talking about it, I thought about this some time back also, but we I don't know, what's your opinion on how philanthropic Nagas are? Would you say we're on more of the giving, just average, or not too generous with our contributions?
No, I think the average is quite generous.
The average, okay.
Yeah, it may not come out as handing cash out.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
But if you look at any average family here, you would have the main family, like the husband, wife, and kids. But they'd also have a whole lot of people staying there, who would be some cousin or relative or some child whose education they're taking care of. So I think generally people are generous. As I said, I don't think it's the
in form of yes.
It doesn't have to be giving cash,
right?
As long as,
of course.
As long as you at the end of the day you sleep well, knowing that you're not just looking after your own self. I think So to answer your question short, I think yes, people are generally quite generous.
Yeah, I asked this because a lot of times I've noticed, and I've said this before also, but I've noticed that when we're trying to help people, sometimes we sort of tend to forget the people who we know personally that need help. And when we're trying to, not in any bad way, but when we're trying to donate to a certain cause or sending money there and there, where literally people that are your family or your close friends need help and they're right next to you, but you're sending the help, which is fine. You can send help anywhere you want, but we tend to overlook the people close to us, when we're...
So every time I've tried to help people, it's in one of two things. Either there's something huge that's happened, and there is a big requirement for funds, so I'll give them whatever I can.
Yeah.
So that usually goes through this method you're talking about.
Right.
There's an account number, someone.
The causes,
and you give it to them. But for the bulk of it, I would much rather help someone I know who's right next to me who needs that. So,
exactly.
So we do our small little things. We're also a little strapped for cash at the moment.
Yeah.
So to the best that we can, we would.
Yeah. And like you mentioned also, sort of can call it the ego, that when some people are, unable to ask for help and all.
Yeah.
I think we should also be able to recognize
Yes.
those in help, and especially the ones that are close and dear to us. We should be able to sort of understand the situations also.
Need to have compassion.
Definitely need a lot more of that in our
identify.
world today. I mean, it's becoming such a it's always been a rat race, but everyone's just focused on their own goals, and we're losing out on.
So COVID's given us some time to think about that. That's good.
Definitely. Okay. Since yours is from a different background, I actually do want you to take time with this. If you have stories, or if you have anything you want to touch on, and which is about your childhood and how you were brought up. You told me a little earlier about how you moved many places, stuff like that. So your experiences growing up before we even get into education, just tell the audience also, because you've been here for a while in Nagaland, so you have a lot of Naga friends. A lot of people do know you, but just for the many that don't, just tell them a little bit about yourself.
Okay. So I'm from Kerala. Lived there only a couple of years of my life. But for the most part, we were moving around between Calcutta, Pune, and Madras. So I've studied in about 8 odd schools in all these areas. And so by the time we moved to a place, got admitted to a school, made friends with everyone there, it was time to move. So I think it takes me a lot of effort to make and retain friends. So the earliest that I can think of, like, as good friends starts from 11th standard. Everything before that, I'm talking about school friends.
Right.
Home and around the home is different. But school friends prior to 10th, I don't remember them too well. I place the reason as being that by the time you got comfortable with anyone, you
had to move
were
again.
already moving out. New school, new place, new town. So that was a bit hard. But I think it's built a great skill that today I can go out and meet anyone that I want, make friends with anyone that I want. I know how to do it. I don't remember most of them. I remember the ones that sort of connect. That's where the skill or this weakness comes in. So I do have that. 11th standard, I think onwards was when some sort of like stability, I think, came in, because I was in school in Kerala. And I met a lot of people that I really liked and connected with. Moving on to college, should we go down that route, or you said you want to do that later?
No, you can go on to college also. Yeah.
So finished 11th and 12th in school.
In Kerala.
Yeah, and that was a great experience. I think that school was it transformed me. The people that I was studying with, the teachers that we had, the place, the principal of the school, all great characters, and, just helped me shape up differently. And then we moved to Delhi. So I moved to Delhi.
Okay, 1 second, just quickly. Before this, now you're getting into your college, right?
Yeah.
During your school days, what was this? Because you said you were moving around a lot. So was this all boarding or no boarding school? Okay.
11th and 12th was semi-boarding. I was staying with my aunt and uncle.
Okay.
Not at home.
Okay.
But so that was as good as home.
Okay. So the whole family was moving, not just you from school to school.
Yeah.
Right?
So 11th and 12th, I shifted out. My mom and dad were in Rajasthan at that time.
Okay.
So I staying with my mom's sister and her husband. Very close to them, so they're as good as my family. And then shifted to Delhi, and that was when I shifted to boarding. So otherwise, it's always been at home.
Right. Okay, then continue with your.
So shifting to Delhi was a bit of a shock. I think the college was great, place was great. So we weren't exactly in the heart of Delhi town or Delhi city, but it was a big shock, completely, because we lived in smaller towns, sometimes villages, but, so that took some time to get used to.
The big city life.
The big city life, yeah. I mean, big city life is great if you're loaded with money and you can enjoy it. But if you're stuck in college and sitting in hostel and it's completely different. So my first exposure to northeastern people that I can remember started there. And I think I built a great connection with mostly, I think, Sikkimese, Nagas and Mizos.
Those three,
yeah. And I still know almost all of them, and I'm still in touch with many of them. So that friendship was really strong, and I think it has helped me right through. It's part of the reason why I'm here in Nagaland right now.
Right.
So college was a shock. College was also great. I met more people in those 3 years of college than I had in my entire previous years of school. Yes, and then it took a while to get used to it. But once you got your feet on the ground, then it was all great. So 3 years of BCom in Delhi. Being in hostel was great fun. I mean, it was the first 1 year was horrid because we had like really bad ragging. Really bad ragging. I've never been exposed to something like that.
Right,
I would never be able to put someone through that. But it sort of toughened you up a little bit, maybe a little too much. And then second year, third year was great fun. Met a lot of people. It got me grounded. And then after that, from the day I finished college, I think within 6 days I started my first job. And I had to shift to Madras for that.
Okay.
So within 6 days I was employed, working.
Working as what? What was your first job?
As an articled assistant in a chartered accountancy firm.
Okay. Oh, this is, I mean, you're talking about after you finish your... Okay.
Yeah. In the middle of my college, I forgot to tell you this. I did I did one internship with Rediffusion. It was an advertising agency. I really liked advertising for some reason. So I spent 2 months working with them in Delhi. They gave me an opportunity to learn or to check whether this is something I would like to do. And I really enjoyed it. It was great fun thinking of ads and drawing.
The creative process.
Yeah, creative stuff. It was great fun. I did those 2 months. For some reason, I don't know why I never pursued that after college. But I really enjoyed those 2 months. And then sitting in hostel, we always wanted to go out to these clubs in Delhi and we could never afford it. So this hostel batchmate and I, in our second year summer holidays, we got onto his scooty and we drove down from North Campus to South Campus to one of the hotels there. I can't remember the name of it, but it was one of the bigger hotels that had a nice big club. And we went and approached the security manager to say, can we be bouncers? There's another guy and I were kind of big. So that guy sat down and he's like, listen, you're studying in SRCC, you're doing BCom, you're probably going to become chartered accountants. Why do you want to be a bouncer? So we couldn't tell him that, listen, we just wanted to get into the club. We had to have a reason to be there. So we begged him to give us that job. And then we were so disappointed because he said, listen, I would be doing you a disservice by giving you this job because it might change the line of your career. So I'm not giving it to you. So at 8 o'clock of the night, 2 of us, we were both about 100 kilos each. Can you imagine? And on one of those Chetak
small scooties.
We came back from South Delhi, very disappointed that we didn't get to be bouncers at this club. I can't for the life of me remember the name of that club.
But one of those big places.
One of those big places. So that was a bit of a disappointment. But so those are two work-related experiences in college. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit, for the audience especially who don't know what you studied and tell us a little bit about your educational background, like with obviously you said you did your BCom and after that with the chartered accountant.
So I'll go back a little bit before that. I call it the path of least resistance. So
the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Till my 8th standard, I used to come last in class. My father used to hate that. Like, I don't know, for some reason I could not concentrate, not study, never had any interest. Somewhere in 8th standard something changed and I started doing a little better. To the point that 10th standard I did okay. I did decently well. And my favorite subjects at that point, which no one in my family will agree with, was maths, physics and biology. I really liked these 3 subjects. And I had this interest in biology quite a bit. When I hit 11th standard and 12th standard, I had to choose a non-science program because I couldn't understand chemistry. And you can't do science, at least in our years, you couldn't take science without chemistry. So I had to get rid of physics, maths and biology and move to commerce. I didn't take arts because history was something I just is out of my league. So I picked up commerce for that reason because I couldn't take chemistry and I couldn't do science because I couldn't take chemistry. So I did commerce. After finishing my 12th standard, I realized that now that I've taken commerce, my scope was fairly limited. I could only do economics or BCom. So I applied to every eco and every BCom college that I could get hold of. And that's how I ended up doing my Bachelor of Commerce. And luckily for me, I did really well in my 12th. So I could choose
because
the college.
You got into Sriram.
Choose my college. So I chose. I had 2 options: eco in Stevens and commerce in SR. So I chose commerce in SR because again at that point I didn't know what the future for eco would be. So I did my 3 years of Bachelor of Commerce, and then at the end of that, I applied to every company that came for campus placements. Everyone, and I got into only 5.
Okay.
I think there were 19 different companies that came. 14 of them said no, 5 said yes. And those 5 were all accounting firms.
Okay.
All CA firms.
All CA firms.
That's how I ended up becoming, getting into the CA line. So I chose what I thought was the best of the CA firms, joined that. And that's when I realized that, okay, there's this big exam that's coming up that one has to clear. So, so that's how I ended up getting there.
How tough was that? The chartered accountant line?
Very stressful, that much I can remember. The pile of books was about that much. The exams are tough. I don't know whether it's as much tough as it is that they don't pass too many people. They pass 1% or 2% of the people who write that exam. So that's quite a small percentage. So you could actually have cleared the exam knowledge-wise, but
because of
they just
their quotas or
knock off the rest. I had a lot of trouble with my first exam, intermediate, which is supposed to be the easier exam. I had a lot of trouble with that, but my finals I sailed through.
Okay.
So yes, on a scale of 0 to 10, I'd say 10. I can't think of anything else. There were sleepless nights studying it. I was very lucky because I had a really good friend and we had different ways of studying. I have to read what I'm trying to study.
Aloud.
And he has to listen. So for many of the exams or the tougher ones, we would study together. I'd have the book in front of me, reading it out to myself to understand, and he'd be sitting there and listening to me. And then we'd have a short discussion. He passed, I didn't, but I did the next time. So I'll never forget that because that synergy really helped me get through it. So we laugh about that once in a while. So that's how I made it through. So
okay, so this was in the year when you first started your work.
2000, June 2000 was my first job.
Right. So chartered accountant, not a very common profession, at least for these parts. Like, you don't hear of too many Naga chartered accountants. So 2000 to 2011 was when you had this long, big chunk of your life working as a chartered accountant. Just first of all, share with us your experiences, because you worked all over India. You're in, like you said, in Bangalore, Delhi, wherever. So share with us about your experiences working as a chartered accountant, working in all over India. And then and maybe mention some of the companies that you enjoyed working with, some of the big names, or just a little bit.
So I'm quite lucky because I think I had 2 really good sets of mentors. In my first job, I was working for a firm called Andersen, and in my opinion, I think Andersen had the smartest of the bunch of guys. I'm not saying that because I was there, but they were really street smart, savvy bosses, and I enjoyed working for them. They made you slave. The average working hours must have been 12 hours a day.
12 hours.
And I was on an offsite project working for this really smart chap called Sarabjit. And he was so savvy with how he does things, and then that sort of seeped downwards to us. And I was right at the bottom of the food chain, right at the bottom. And I think the first 3 years of working with him and his guys really helped me understand how to work, professionalism, ethics, how to get things done, how to make things faster, how to think, most importantly.
Right.
So that was one set with Arthur Andersen, and that was probably the toughest work I've ever done, those 3 years with them. After that, I moved to Thornton, which was a newer firm. But I moved to Thornton and I worked with 2-3 people there who were also from Arthur Andersen, moved here, and I worked under them. Ashish, Gaurav, Amitabh. These guys were just, again, another league. And I was so lucky to have to be working with them.
Right.
That for the next 5 years, I was also being trained by people that I thought were brilliant. And it's very important when you're working that you feel like your boss is adding to you somehow or the other, some value.
Yes.
Otherwise, you always feel compromised. So I think my first 2 major stints as working in these CA firms with these guys was every day was learning. Every day, you go to office, you do something that you haven't done before.
Right.
And it's not like they were like guiding you right through. That's not how it works.
Yeah, of course.
The assumption is that if you don't know, come and ask. You can ask once. You can just ask once. So once you've got it, then you're supposed to figure it out. So it was great, I think, learning wise, but very, very hectic. You can see all the white hair. I think by 25 or 26, I was starting to
already the gray hairs.
Turn white. Yeah. But absolutely zero life. You get up, go to office, you're there pretty much most
It's
of the
just
day.
all career.
Yeah. Towards the end, maybe the last 3-4 years of working there, I think I managed to get time off, go around and do stuff. But it was completely focused on building that career. And I think I was really lucky to have the right guys that I was working with. 2011 was when I put my hand up and I said, okay, now I need some time. I want to... I've just been, the ball has just been rolling and I've been running behind it, trying to keep pace with it. So I stopped the ball, moved it aside and said, okay, now I'm going to take a year off. 2012. I took a whole year off. And I had no agenda, absolutely nothing. Most people take a year off because you want to go and volunteer, you want to go and travel. I said, no, I'm just going to take a year off to do nothing. Of course, for a couple of months I did nothing and then I started getting really like, I need to do something. So I ended up traveling a little bit. I ended up, reading up this, reading up that, trying to figure out what to do next. So it was really great taking the year off, but it suddenly put a lot of stress on you because you're so used to having
that cycle of work.
Having something, you get a salary in your bank every month. There's work to be done, there's pressure, there's clients, sometimes happy, sometimes not happy. And now suddenly there's nothing, absolutely nothing. So then the stress started building up quite a bit. So then I spent the remaining time trying to figure out what to do.
Okay, just wants to just cut you off before you go further. First of all, I want to know what made you suddenly stop and say like, I'm taking a break from this. And was that break intended for you to head into something else, or was it just a break for like, I need a break right now kind of thing? Because this thing it's not easy for people to do. Like, people get into the cycle like you're saying, and they get stuck there. Not saying that it's a bad thing having your job and all, but like for you, someone who's realized sort of your passion, it's unfolded, and even with this line of work, now it's a whole new ball game with your own firm. We'll get to that later. But what made you, what gave you the push and maybe open your eyes or whatever it was that said like, I need to take a break from this and move on to something else?
So I set myself a very aggressive target when I started working, was that I wanted to be partner of the firm by the age 30.
Okay.
That was my target. So 30 would have been 10 years of working, a little more than 10 years of working. So in a CA firm, that's quite aggressive. It's possible. Many people have done it. At the age of 28, I think I was one level below partner with no clear idea of
when it's going to happen.
So I was not so sure about hitting that target. So then that made me start thinking about what else. And my father has always been pushing us to do our own thing. So instead of working for a company, he said, why don't you try starting a business? And the longer you wait, the harder it becomes.
Right.
So that was also playing in my head. So I thought, okay, as long as I'm sitting in this firm, working here day to day, I'll never think of what else. So that pushed me out to say, okay, I had no plan. Take a break for 1 year. And if in 1 year I can't figure out what I want to do,
get back in,
then I'm stupid and I just need to go back to what I was doing. So in that 1 year, that's pretty much what was playing in my head.
Okay.
And for the first 3 months, as I said, I was doing nothing, just enjoying myself. Just the break. I could sleep as long as I wanted to. Go out anywhere I wanted to, sleep whenever I wanted to, without having this pressure of office. But after 3 months, the stress started. Now what? So then I had to think about options, and I was fighting really hard not to go back to what I was doing earlier, because for me that would have been like a sign of
defeat, right?
Defeat. So then I spent a lot of time thinking of different things, studying, and that was the time when I think all these apps and everything were coming into place. So I don't know how to build an app, and that is the biggest weakness that I have. I wish I had known that, because then it's a world of opportunities after
exactly
that. But I tried learning it. It was too complicated for me. I did learn how to build websites, and then so then I said, okay, you know what, I have a skill which is finance related stuff. Why don't I spend the rest of my 6 months of that break working with non-profits, trying to help them in this manner for a small fee to cover my cost, but it'll give me exposure while I'm thinking of what else to do.
What else?
So I did that for a little while. I had a friend of mine from Ladakh who was heading up a big NGO in Bangalore. So he helped me out quite a bit. He gave me a lot of work to do. So that kept me on my feet. And barring that non-profit that I worked with, everyone else was just asking for money, help us get more money, help us get more money. So that sort of put me in another spot,
Right,
I don't want to, unless I'm absolutely sure that you are doing the right kind of thing, I don't want to stand behind you asking for money. So I moved out of that. Then I think I sort of got pushed towards tourism because right from when I was a child, I think I've always been quite interested in hospitality. But I don't have the kind of money to go and buy a hill and build like 4 cottages on it.
Yes.
So that's when the whole thing of like, okay, this is a great time. I have no responsibility. I'm at rock bottom already. It's a good time to build. So I that's how I started moving towards tourism. And I picked up the phone and called up my hostel roommate, David, who's now my
who's your
business
partner today? Yes.
Then I said, I want to do something in tourism. I'm not really sure what. I have some ideas. Are you interested? So he said, sure, why not? So I flew down. I came here. That was somewhere in 2012, I think.
11,
somewhere in 12, if I'm not mistaken. And we had a discussion. We said, okay, what? Both of us know nothing about tourism, absolutely nothing about tourism, but we'll wing it. We'll figure it out. So that's how we transition. Now, the general agreement for where we were heading was done, but I don't have any experience in tourism. So I spent almost a year and a half working as a guide in a friend's business in Bangalore.
Okay.
A lady called Kaveri. She taught me everything to do with tourism. It was great, how to be a guide, how to talk, how to project your voice, how to do research, how to understand what a client wants.
Right. So you actually did take this course.
Yeah. For 2 years, 1.5 years.
1.5 years.
It's not a course.
I mean, but like, it sort of like was a course because you were like...
threw me into the deep end, saying, okay, here are 6 people from Denmark.
Take them around. And
she sent me an email the night before with all the history of whatever I was supposed to do. Read it, learn it, understand it, Google it. And I had to learn how to talk about it like I was not reading it.
Yes.
So that was great. It was great fun, great learning. But that built the base for what we're doing today. So it taught me what people want, what they like, what they don't like, how to read, whether a customer is actually interested or not interested.
Yes.
Those sort of things. And then 2013 end is when I came here and we started off. In fact, our first client were not actually our clients. They were friends of ours from Bangalore who happened to be here in December for that Hornbill in 2013. And I begged them and I said, listen, please go back to Bangalore and tell everybody you came with us. So that's how we got our first the 8 of them, I remember. They're still very good friends with all of them. And so they went around and helped us start.
So tell us about your business. You obviously your partner is there, David, and India Trail, and it's a northeast. Yeah, I'll let you explain to the audience like what it actually is and what you offer as a business, and we'll plug in your channel here with all. Your.
So we like to call ourselves a travel experience company. So what that means is that we have done our research. We've gone around to most of the states. We've studied the geography of the area. We've studied some history of the place. And what I think, at least in the beginning, what our key skill was, if you want to visit the Northeast and you don't know where to go or how to do it, we will study you, we'll study your interests, your group, and then make suggestions. So
like a customized sort of
So to be very simple about it, if a guest is coming with 2 young kids, then we would say, listen, don't go to this part, because the drive times are quite high, the road condition is not so good. Or if there's people want to do water sports, then we'll send them to Meghalaya. If people are interested in mountains and snow, then it restricts. It's only Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh. So we would study the whole group. I mean, I'm simplifying it.
Yes.
Broadly, from the time they get off the plane till the time we put them back on the plane, we handle everything in the middle, and we would design that for them based on their interests.
Right.
So we've tried like these package tours that
the usual,
goes for. It never works. It never works because you put 4 different people in a car.
And you're putting them.
Interests. Everyone's got different interests. Correct. This place is so diverse. Just driving from here to Guwahati, for example, people want to do different things. So how do you put 4 different travelers in a car?
Exactly.
And cater to everyone's interests?
Right.
Either everyone's really happy or everyone's really pissed off. And we have had a group, there are 4 people who have been really pissed off. So we moved out of that, and now we just do customized stores. In fact, over the years we have reduced what we do. We now have people in other states who run their own businesses and we're quite comfortable with what they do. So if Sikkim or Meghalaya or Arunachal, we farm it out to these chaps.
Oh,
so they
okay,
know what we like, they know what our clients like, and we do a heavy discussion with them, and they do it. So we now focus largely on Meghalaya, Assam, and Nagaland. Sikkim, Arunachal are done by others. Meghalaya is done by a friend of ours. Then we moved further. We said, okay, how long are we going to be sitting in planning tours? It's a very, I would use the word replaceable skill.
Right.
You come on a holiday with us, the next time your friends are coming, you probably share our program with them and just do the same thing, we can be replaced quite easily.
True.
So then we said, okay, what else is the next? It's important for us to have a property. Because that property and the experience in that property is unique.
And that'll be yours. Exactly.
No one else can do it. But we don't have the money for that kind of stuff. So how are we going to get a property? So we moved to, I think the first experiment we had was in Mima village. And I think it was 2015, if I'm not mistaken. We approached the village and we said, listen, why don't you rent us 4 or 5 empty houses? We'll do it up. We'll run it as a homestay. We'll run it. We'll give you, certain revenue share.
Yes.
But we'll also employ everyone from the village. So we had a whole lot of performers, artists, then all the housekeeping, all the restaurant staff, everyone was all from there. It was a great experience. I thought it was a great experience. But it did challenge us a bit because we had to work with a lot of people.
Right.
So everyone has different interests, takes, whatever on this. So while that was a great experience for us, I think it was too big a deal for us to continuously do. So Mima was our first taste of running our own thing. And I think it was brilliant. We learned a lot. It was fantastic working with the guys from Mima. It was absolutely great. Then we moved on one step further and said, okay, now let's have our own place. So we rented a campsite. We rented a small piece of land and we built a campsite on it. And for 2016, 17, 18 and 19, we run our own campsite. It's been that's something that we really enjoyed
Camp
doing.
David.
Yeah, that's right. Something we really enjoy doing, and I think we do it well. I'm sure people might have different opinions, but I think we do it well. We have great toilets, which is the biggest thing for anyone.
Right, very important.
The food is okay. It's not. I mean, it's not a place where you're going to think, let's go to Camp David for dinner. No, you're coming there for the evening, the fun, the bonfire, the people you meet.
But it's good.
It's good.
Yeah.
This year, we're actually expanding. We're taking a much bigger place. And while we're not going to increase the number of tents, I think we're going to increase the number of things that we do and we offer.
The activities and such.
Luckily for us, in 2019, TAFMA allowed us to host a music fest in sync with Hornbill.
Okay.
That was a great experience for us. Our experiences are slowly moving on.
I remember seeing the pictures of that.
So we first started planning trips. Then we said, okay, let's start running our own place. Now we have our own campsite. Then now we have a small music festival that syncs up with Hornbill at the campsite. We had almost 50 artists perform over 10 days at the campsite. It was a great experience. I won't say that we did it well because we were also learning how to do it.
Right.
But I think given the limited knowledge and experience we had, I think we did a decent job, and hopefully we'll get to do it this year as well. Now our next step is to run some cottages. There are some cottages very close to our campsite that we are trying to take on lease. And if we get that, that'll be our next move. It's not like we'll shut the campsite, but we're going to run both because they target different people.
Right.
So that'll be another move up, I think, for us. So that's generally where we're headed. I think we'll slowly start getting away from planning trips. I think there are younger people with more drive who do it with the same passion that we did 7 years back. And I think we've identified a few people that we'd like to train up and let them do it. But we'll now move to just these 2-3 things that we're talking about.
Yeah, that's a nice thing. That I mean, if you do train people under your company and then you retain them and then they still carry on that aspect of the business, like you said, I do feel that way too, that you need younger people for that kind of like with that zeal and
it's quite tiring.
It will be tiring. Can you just share with us some of like the best? Okay, first of all, Camp David, how many tents does it?
Last 2019, when we last did it, we didn't do it in 2020, but 2019 we had, I think, 40 between 40 and 45 tents.
Wow, that's a lot. And are these generally all booked during the period?
So last year we were 2019 we were quite lucky. We had roped on to Airbnb. And through Airbnb and a lot of walk-ins, we were almost full every day.
And is that strictly during the Hornbill, or does it extend beyond?
So
how does
for the last 4 years, 15 to 19, we did it only during the Hornbill because there were very few travelers coming outside of that. This new property that we're taking, we're planning to do it up in a manner where we can use it through
year round. No?
So it only makes sense to do it now.
Yeah. Okay, now coming back to the other thing that I was going to ask. Can you just share with us one or two of your great, in your opinion, some of the great packages that you designed for some customers anywhere in the Northeast, in any of the
One of my personal favorites is Menchuka.
I've seen a lot of pictures of that. That's beautiful.
I've been there 3 times already and I love it. I'm going again in Feb. I don't need an excuse to go. My bike, one bag, and I'm gone. It's a long journey. So
how long is it
so from Nagaland, it'll take you a day to reach Dibrugarh. From Dibrugarh, it's 2 days drive.
2 days drive.
2 days drive. Yeah. So it's not for the weak-hearted.
Yeah, it's definitely not.
Once you reach Menchuka, I'm telling you, you just forget everything in the world. 2013 October, just before September 2013, just before we started this whole India Trail thing, I took off there on my own, and I went local transport. So I went by bus from Dimapur to Itanagar.
Oh my!
Itanagar, I got a lift from a friend of mine to Along. Along, I jumped into a sumo. In the sumo, I met a guy who's now a great friend of mine, a guy called Gebu, who runs homestays in Menchuka. So I was really scared because I was reaching this northern part of Arunachal with no place booked, nothing. Reached his place, stayed with him for a week, and ever since then, I've just been going back. My return journey from Menchuka was very interesting. I took a sumo from Menchuka to Alo, spent the night there. Alo to Pasighat, again by sumo. Pasighat, I had to get across the river to Dibrugarh. So the sumos wouldn't go, so I had to jump on the back of a Tata, that 407 Tata mobile things, drive a little bit, that broke down. Then jumped onto the back of a truck, reached the riverside, jumped onto a ferry, got across to Dibrugarh, and it must have been 12 o'clock in the afternoon by now, and I had to reach Dimapur by night. So everyone had given me stories about how Assam usually
at night.
So from Dibrugarh, I jumped onto those Tata, those big vehicles, the 17-18 seater things that commute. Jumped on that, reached Golaghat. Golaghat, they told me you've missed the train. I was walking around with my bag. It must have been 5-6 in the evening by then. And one guy in a Tata Nano with a child came up. You're looking lost, and it was dark. So I said, no, I'm fine. I don't need help, because I didn't know who this guy was. He's like, no, hang on a second, I'll drop you to the station. So he drove me some 20 kilometers in his Tata Nano, refused to take any money from me, took me to the station, took me to the counter, helped me buy a ticket, got onto the train coming to Dimapur. As soon as I got on the train, I couldn't find the damn ticket. So next station, I handed my bag. I was desperate. Handed my bag to one of these guys inside the train. I said, hold it. I ran out, bought another ticket, came back into the train because I was scared that they would check and I didn't have a ticket. Finally reached Dimapur at I think maybe 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the night. No idea what to do. So I called up another old college friend of mine who runs a place in supermarket. So at 3 o'clock in the morning, I walked from the station to her place, her hotel in supermarket, and spent the night there. And I've never slept better, finally. So Menchuka, so definitely Menchuka.
Menchuka definitely, because from you especially, but from a few other sources also, I've seen some amazing pictures. What would be your top 5 Northeast destinations?
So Menchuka would be right there on top, along with maybe North Sikkim.
North Sikkim.
I think Sikkim offers, spectacular views and lovely people. They're so friendly and so happy. I think I'll put these two at the top. The Hornbill Festival in Nagaland is something that I really like. Because it's so vibrant and it's so exciting, and there's so much happening all the time. And I think for our guests also, it's great because you get to see everything in one spot.
The whole thing.
Others will take you 3 months to move around Nagaland to get that experience. I think Meghalaya, doing the whole double-decker walk, the canyoning in Meghalaya, you're basically walking on a riverbed. Fantastic. Again, I've done that 4 or 5 times. Just specifically, anytime anyone's going there, I go there to do it.
Which area are they doing this?
It's in a place called Molong Bana. It's near that Mawsynram.
Okay.
So it's about 2.5 hours away from Shillong. Yeah. Okay. Fantastic experience. I'd put that as 4. I think the 5th would be the trip to the Burma border. in Moray. Because the drive from Imphal to Moray is stunning. Absolutely stunning. It's been a while since we've done that, but that would be my fifth. I'll put it that way.
While we're on this topic, I just want to get your take and your, just your view on tourism, obviously in like relation to Nagaland. So first of all, just generally speaking, first of all, what do you think about tourism in Nagaland, the potential it has? Maybe what are the things we're doing wrong with it, or what are some of the things we can do with it?
That's a good question.
How much potential do you think we have Nagaland?
There is a lot of potential, I think, but I think the key is targeting it the right way.
Right.
Meaning, are you targeting low budget travelers? Are you targeting backpackers? Are you targeting middle class families, or are you targeting like the elite?
The elites.
Yeah. Well, either way, it could work. I think the difference would be the impact on the ecology or the people or the infrastructure that the place has. My personal take would be a mix of maybe limited low budget travelers and more on the higher spenders. That would be my thing, because I think that would do justice to the infrastructure that you have. There are not too many great hotels here.
Exactly.
That needs to be fixed. I think my honest opinion would be the potential in Nagaland is directly linked with the quality of stays available, which at the moment is a bit compromised. There are a couple of decent hotels, but your average homestay is not maintained very well. That needs to be done. There are a lot of training programs that are happening, so I haven't checked it out in the last couple of years, but I know that a lot of our guests would not be happy with that. So
definitely.
we need to work on that. Therefore, we prefer to run it ourselves. But if there was even 2 really good homestays with clean sheets and clean toilets in every major village across the state, imagine that. I mean, just thinking aloud, like a bike tour starting in Kohima all the way and do the whole state and come back would be fantastic.
Right. So you really feel that like it's directly linked with accommodation problems?
Yes. For one major reason.
One of the major, like it can't be just one thing, obviously. But
one of the major reasons why I'm saying that is when you come to the Northeast, everything is different. As a South Indian sitting over here, I can tell you that.
Right.
Even though I've been here 8 years, every time I travel to a new place, I feel it. It is different. People are different. Culture is different. Food is different. Everything is different.
Of course.
So when you are doing a long trip, and an average trip this side is 7 to 8 days, or maybe 10 days sometimes, going back at the end of the day to a nice, clean, comfortable place which allows you to shut down, refresh, and then wake up the next morning to a new experience is very important. If you spend 3 days in not so comfortable accommodation, by the 4th day you just want to go home.
Get out.
I just want to go home. So everything that we try doing after that is wasted, because they're not the clients are myself. I'm not able to take in what I'm being shown. Therefore, having that nice place to stay makes a huge difference. I'm not talking about an expensive place to stay. I'm talking about a clean, comfortable sleeping area. So
I totally get what you're saying with this, and the need for it is very urgent, because we know of the ground realities. Maybe not everywhere, but if it's like this in some of the nearby districts, we can only imagine how pathetic it'll be in the other far-flung interior districts. So definitely accommodation.
One solution could be, and I don't know how practical or feasible this is that I think in every non-commercial area, I mean, forget the main towns. If the council or the tourism council of that village comes together, identifies one place, does it up properly, run by the village, everybody shares the revenue, as compared to like one influential family.
Great idea.
Because everyone then feels involved in the whole thing, right? So it's in everyone's interest to make sure that place is clean, run, look after, because
the accountability is the whole village or that whole,
and everybody shares the benefit of it. So that I think would be fantastic. Like just one 4-bedded place in every major area would solve all the problems.
I definitely like I don't know if you've heard about this Amud Athletics Association, and we're organizing the South Asian Federation
Jan, right?
Yes, cross country championship, which is like the biggest event Nagaland has ever. We actually got the national bid for the national cross country championship, and then a few weeks later, we were pleasantly surprised to find out that the South Asian has also been handed to us. So the biggest event Nagaland's ever going to host, ever, across not just sports but across the board. And when we were having meetings on this and regarding the logistics of it and all, we realized, like we do want to market. We try and welcome everyone during the Hornbill, or just in general, welcome to Nagaland, and but an event of this magnitude is just showing us, how ill prepared we are for those kind of numbers, because we are expecting athletes to be coming in. 700, 800 numbers, those are not confirmed yet, but those kind of numbers we're expecting. And like you mentioned, besides the top level hotels, which are a few, because dignitaries will be coming now from international countries. So besides the top 4 or 5, this is going to be in Kohima, so 3, 4, maybe 5 very good hotels. Then you have a bunch of like decent hotels. Then majority is just like you said, is the kind of places that we wouldn't want to put our guests up in, so I realized then, like we always talk about trying to create Nagaland into this tourist. I'm one proponent of that. I really feel like we have to market tourism. In whatever way. I want to discuss this with you, but we need to market this and make tourism like this, the backbone of like our economy. I feel like we can be a tourist economy. So on that note, I want to get your opinion on how like you did say and suggest that a mix of backpacking but more like along the lines of like, how do we market Nagaland? Are we marketing its natural beauty? Are we marketing our culture? Or what are we doing to sort of market Nagaland to the outside world, to say, hey, come and visit us, come and visit this place?
So I think the leadership is good, the ones that are handling tourism in the state. I think the ideas are coming now. So given a year, I think Nagaland will transform quite a bit. In the past, I can't comment too much. What's done is done.
Yeah.
But I think how Nagaland should market themselves, and this is how we also express Nagaland to people, is it's about the people, it's about the culture, the traditions and the food. Anything more than that, there are other places that do it better. So if we can have Nagaland presented to people this way, because you don't want to sell them about architecture and you don't want to sell them about views,
of course.
because there are places with better architecture, better, but there's no place that has the kind of traditions and culture that Nagaland has. I can't think of anything. I'm sure there are, but I can't think of anything, at least not in this area. With that key selling point, and we've brought people here who have spent days just trying to understand, one tribe's culture. That's how complex it can be.
Exactly.
So with that focus, I think Nagaland is set. That's how we should sell people. Therefore, the Hornbill is fantastic.
Exactly. Yes.
In one area, you get to experience a taste of everything. You may not understand the whole thing,
but you get a glimpse of the whole.
It's just brilliant. And I think whoever thought about Hornbill, kudos to them. And I really think it's done well. I don't know about this year and how things are going to be, but so I think the Hornbill Festival should definitely continue, because it, in my opinion, is the best way to visit Nagaland.
Yeah.
It may not be the most natural way, because it's a show at the end of the day.
Exactly. All compressed into
all
like
compressed,
the 10-day. Yes.
But it's a brilliant way. And over and above that, we should have programs to experience culture. And I know for a fact that the government is very focused on it. They're trying to identify specific areas and engage people to come up with what can be done there. It's very difficult for a person from that village to come out and say, this is interesting, because he lives that life.
Right.
To him, everything is normal.
Exactly.
So bring someone else from outside. Outside could be, someone from another part of Nagaland will see it.
Yeah.
What can be done in these villages? And I'll share an experience that I'm so excited about. It's like it made my year. Day. A couple of weeks back, Mr. Abu Mehta organized a trip for us at Tupema, and we went there and we were waiting to be shown around the village so that we can study what is interesting, what is not interesting. And you won't believe who our guide was. Our guide for the day was the Chief Minister. I can't imagine any other place, any other state, any other location where someone as senior as the two of them would take a whole day out to take us and show us the place. it was, I was like a little child sitting in the back, so excited, just to have, this sort of.
Shout out to the CM and.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. It was a humbling, a great experience, and I think it has driven us a little bit more, because if right at the top, that's the
like
drive,
they invested in
the drive. It comes to us, So now our goal is to see, okay, how can we do this best? And I think if you have that sort of like leadership, the rest is just will flow. So that I think that is exciting. Times are, I think now it's going to be great. Really going to be great. We just have to figure out the right way to sell the state, and the right kind of people who want to come here.
Can you share with us a little bit about what's happening in Kohima? Whatever can be shared.
Yeah, sure. So I think what we're trying to do right now is design a walk through the village.
Okay.
Which will be an hour to 2 hours long, depending on the interest of the group. Which will give that person, you have to assume that the person has no idea about Nagaland.
Right.
It'll give that person a glimpse of food, people, culture, music, traditions such as weaving, etc. And a glimpse of what life is like in that village. So how do we compress all of that into like an hour and a half to 2? Which will also include sitting with somebody who's an elderly person, learning some of his life lessons. It might sound a little boring right now, but when you're there,
it's amazing. I can just picture it already. I can already picture it.
On top of all of that, we're trying to see whether we can take them to the fields. That's a great experience. Go and spend a couple of days there, or just a couple of hours if you're not that keen. There are a couple of hikes that one can do to 2 different areas, depending on how long you want it to be. You can spend the day learning how to weave a basket. You can spend a day with a local person, living his life as he lives it. So we're trying to see what part of all of this can we sew into either a single day or a multiple day experience. So with Kohima as base, you can actually spend now 3 days there and be actively engaged on all 3, and completely different experiences. So it's
and connectivity is just there. So from Kohima at least.
Roads are good.
Roads
it's
are
just
good.
40 minutes away. The place to stay there is also quite nice. There's a couple running that tourist lodge, which is also, they're also quite...
The tourist...
the
tourist village. What was that place? I mean, tourist resort?
Yeah, tourist resort.
Tourist resort, right?
I don't know the exact name. So they're also quite great fun. Young. So
I think when you were just sort of giving us this whole itinerary, sort of, that 1-2 hour walk around Kohima, and you're saying it might sound boring, but for me, personally for me, because I spent my schooling, everything, almost the majority of my life outside of Nagaland.
Right.
And in Nagaland also, I've been third, fourth generation Dimapurian. So this is no excuse. I know this is no excuse, but admittedly, I've said it many times, and I do know that I am very, not at all knowledgeable actually about our culture, and I am very interested in it also. So when you say things like that, I can just picture it, and I can picture people from outside being fascinated with itineraries like this and activities like this where it involves. And that's where I agree with you on the cultures and traditions being our main selling point instead of our place or whatever the other things maybe. We can market those things as well also, the zukus and this and that, but ideally the core factor to be cultures, the people, the traditions.
Interesting you mentioned this, because Mr. Abu Mehta was very clear that whatever we do and whatever we design, even if it's largely focused on people coming from outside, it has to cater to local people and give them this as a weekend option. Let's say Dimapur or Kohima.
Exactly.
I'm fed up of my life here. I just want to get away. This has to also cater to that.
Exactly, and I think this will really work, because like me, I'm sure there are many people who are some may not be interested, but many of us who are not educated enough about our own cultures, and having options like this, I mean, that's something I would just hop on and do it this weekend also if it was available. Another thing I found interesting was you saying the Hornbill Festival being a great way. It's like it's a nice idea to have that as like the hallmark of the calendar year. That is like the big one.
Yes.
And then have all the other things planned around it, and it's already so big. And you've noticed, right? They've started calling it the experiential festival.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
At least I think the Hornbill Music Festival, I think, is called the experiential festival. So it is true how they are. They're doing a great job. The people who organize the entire Hornbill, it's no easy task. So
putting together something as big as that, so it can't be easy.
Right. We need to work on infrastructure so that's the accommodations and stuff. What do you think about transport and connectivity? Like, first of all, obviously it's only till Dimapur, but just we all know about the roads, unfortunately, past Dimapur, Kohima, and a little nearby places. So what's your take on how much that's a factor? Connectivity, transportation.
On your point, on your question about connectivity and transport, I mean, who doesn't like a 5-6 hour shake up? So it is going to be a challenge, I think, but I can see some changes happening. Like your Kohima Dimapur road used to be like 6 hours on a bad day. It's 1.5 hours now, so it's still not world class. It's getting there, but it will make a big difference. I think general level of comfort. So a lot of the higher end clients don't want to travel more than 2 hours. Airport to hotel should be less than 2-3 hours. Day trips should be less than a couple of hours, and this is on the assumption that the roads are good. So it does limit our options. It does make things difficult. Like reaching further places is obviously out of the question for most of our guests now. So it's a waste, actually. It is a waste because there's so much to show. Doyang, for example, right? You know, it's not that far away if you really think about it. But the experience of sending someone to Doyang and back, you know, it makes the next day unproductive because they're not willing to do something too much. So if we can get the roads fixed, transport is a big issue. We don't have enough cars. Every time there's a Hornbill festival or something big happening, we have to get the cars from outside.
Exactly.
We have to. We've had some very interesting experiences with cars in the past. So sometimes it's safer for us, more reliable for us to get the cars from outside. So so I think transport and infrastructure is a biggie. We've had an instance where, well, now it's funny. Maybe 4 years or 3-4 years back, where our car and driver got kidnapped.
Yes, you were just telling. That is crazy. I mean, when you said this, I couldn't believe it. Like, it happened in Imphal.
I mean, there's a very large story to it. Not Imphal, on the way to Imphal somewhere.
Okay, but in Manipur.
That was, I mean, today we can laugh about it, but it was quite stressful back then.
I'm sure.
There was absolutely no one got harmed, nothing. It was quite a...
Did you end up having to pay the ransom?
Quite a bit, a lot.
We can't disclose that amount.
I don't want to. But it was a lot of money, and it put us back quite significantly.
I'm sure.
But I think the fact that our guys came back safe and untouched and no problem.
That is the bigger picture. But still, that's a big financial setback. Like, you know.
It even ended up with one of our guys and one of their guys standing together and taking a picture with the agreement for the film. That was interesting, So that was a learning experience. I don't want to dwell on it too much because it might scare. It was not what it seems to be, but it was still a experience.
Well, I quickly wanted to ask you on this also, because nowadays with the social media boom and that it's all over and everyone has access to information and everything, till this day there's still a very big narrative that's painted on Nagaland and the entire Northeast about how we're like an insurgency ridden place, that it's still being driven a little bit, but obviously due to social media and other sources of news now, people can get different sources of their news. How do you feel is what's in your sense with dealing with tourists from people from domestic tourists, international tourists for the past how many years, but dealing with them, what's your sense of like their feeling about and their mindset and even if they don't say it, I'm sure you can get a read of like are they a little scared of coming and stuff like that.
So I a couple of ways to answer that question. So the short answer to that is yes. I think most non-adventurous people would be a little apprehensive.
Yes.
Can't blame them because of two reasons. One is the news that makes its way out is usually things that happen. Sometimes the things that happen are not necessarily no newspaper is going to report the happy moments of life, right? So
of course.
So they come with that in their mind. Second is new place, new people, new face, completely unfamiliar. So that also sort of adds to it. But that is quickly resolved. Like the minute you come here and you realize that it's totally safe, there's no problem. And the third is that I've been here for 8 years, and barring one instance, I can't think of a single moment when I've been uncomfortable or felt unsafe. There's not a single moment that I can think of, except for one, when I was looking for my cat many years back. Oh, I don't want to mention about that. I think the apprehension is there, but the minute you reach, it's all gone. Because people are very welcoming. So
exactly.
There's no issue.
That's another thing, right? I mean, just bragging about Nagas all the time, but hospitality. I think we're very hospitable people. I mean, it's people keep saying it, and I've seen it now. Like I feel that we can be like really good hosts, and that's one thing that you can't replicate in other places. I mean, I'm sure there'll be other places that have really nice people as well, but something that is our forte and can be implemented in.
I think it's almost built into the general DNA of Nagas to be
that
very
Naga hospitality. It is. Okay, so on I mean, we've touched quite a bit on tourism. I genuinely hope that you with what you're doing with your company, India Trail, and whoever the people are responsible, like other people like you plus the people in the departments, the government and all, I seriously hope we can make this work. And it has to be a collective effort, like you said. The idea about each tourist what's it called, that village tourist council or whatever, or something like that, and like if it's a collective effort, then I guess it will be a greater success.
I think everyone has to feel involved, right? Like if you're not benefiting from it, or if you're not contributing to it, then you don't care. So
and it should, so I guess there is a need to have a proper agenda that we're how we're selling this, because we have to know that like we are sort of selling is, I don't like that word, but it is what it is. Like we are selling to the world, like our culture, like come and look at us. And so if everyone's on board, and we should be proud of our culture, our heritage and whatnot. So if we can all get on board and have this massive campaign or whatever it be from the tourists, I think that has potential. I quickly want to touch on before we get into the last segment on you rejoined, like, so 2011 you quit, and then you got into your journey to 2012 2013 into your India Trail and what you're doing till today. And in the year 2019, was it
April?
2019 April, you decided to get back into the chartered accountant life, but this time as your own boss and your own, starting your own firm. Just share with us a little bit about that.
So from 2015 onwards, a lot of friends of mine were pushing me to start my own practice here for various reasons, and I refused to do it because I said, no, I've come here to start something else, and I want to do it differently, and I want to be more focused on tourism than anything else. But finally, I think in 2019 I sort of succumbed to it for a couple of reasons. Travel is seasonal, so to keep the revenue steady, one needs another option. And second is I was scared because it's been 10 years out of the whole thing, so I didn't want to forget whatever little I knew. And you need to be in touch with these things,
definitely,
and use it regularly in order to know it. So 2019 April, I said, okay, you know what, two good reasons to start. Get some revenue coming in, and also use this to relearn everything again. And thank God I did. Thank God that I did, because in 8 months this whole lockdown business started.
Everything started. Yes.
And then the CA firm sort of helped us sail through a little bit of it. So I'm really grateful that I did. So today I'm quite happy because now I have a mix of both. I have the really challenging, CA stuff, which makes me think, makes me work late, makes me, read a lot, learn a lot, go through all my old trainings again. And then on the other hand, now we've got the tourism thing happening again, which is more fun, more relaxed. We're working meet a lot of people, so I'm getting the best of both.
Best of both worlds.
Yeah. Like, a lot less sleep, but
I'm sure. But then that comes with the territory. When you are expanding your revenue streams or whatnot, like you said, like that was a big blessing for you in disguise when you finally decided to take the plunge or the re-plunge back into that chartered accountant life? And just share with us what are some of the services that you offer, like it's called the R. Abraham and Associates, yeah, your firm. So
my services are tuned to more what people require here. I do a lot of work with GST.
Okay.
I do a lot of work with income tax. Both these areas were never my core experience earlier, so it's been great learning. I do some audits. I do some accounting stuff. And quite recently, I've started doing some work with government departments and non-profits.
Okay.
So that's very interesting.
It's
a lot of work to do, but it's great fun because that's completely new for me, and it's great. It's a lot of learning.
Can you just share with me? I mean, share with everyone again. Like you were just explaining to me a little. I had a fair knowledge on this, but basically the differences between the misconception that people have about like, we're exempt from income tax, but and also the difference between income tax and GST and
so Nagas are exempt from paying income tax.
Correct.
And income tax, very very simply put, is the tax on the money you've made. So if you started with 100 rupees in the beginning of the year, you did some work, and at the end of the year you've got 200 rupees. Your income in that year is A minus B, which is 100 rupees. So in the rest of the country, you're taxed on that 100. In Nagaland, you're not taxed on that 100. So simply put, income tax in the rest of the country, or most of the rest of the country, you have to pay it. Here, you don't have to pay
exempt, correct.
But you're not exempt from filing your tax return. You still have to file your tax return. So you and I will still have to go at the end of the year, go to that income tax portal,
the same thing,
enter the whole thing saying that I started with 100, I ended with 200, my income is 100. You don't have to pay the tax. I have to pay the tax. But we both have to file.
Filing, yes.
So that is one of the biggest things that I've realized that people don't do here. The laws are changing quite rapidly, so it's working towards pushing people to file returns. So the first message would be that, listen, if you're not filing your tax returns, you should. It's not going to cost you any tax because you don't have to pay it.
Exactly.
And
how, just quickly, what would the procedure be? How much of a hassle is it to be filing?
If you're salaried, then it's very simple. You just have to go in, log in, go to an ITR1 form, enter the details. All that details are on the sheet.
But running a business will be a little more...
Running a business is a little more complicated because
so
you have to make a balance sheet and a P&L.
Correct.
But I would say that if you don't have a balance sheet and a P&L for your business, then you're
what
not
are you
looking
doing
after...
exactly?
You're not looking after your business properly because you don't know whether you're actually making money at the end of the year. So that's the first thing you should be doing. That then helps you file your tax return. How do you know that you've ended with 200 rupees if you don't have that?
Exactly.
In the first place.
The records of that, yes.
So that's income tax. The second is what Sashi had mentioned last time on your show, GST. GST is the tax on a transaction.
Yes.
So if I'm buying something from you, I'm paying you tax. If I'm selling something, that person is paying me tax. But I'm actually not collecting the tax. I'm collecting the tax on behalf of the government. So that no one in the country is exempt. There are some things that are exempt, but very little. No one is exempt from that. So if you run a business and you've registered yourself as a GST business, you have to charge your customers that tax. You have to collect it and give it to the government. There's no way to avoid that. The process is so simple. It's like any layman can figure that out. All you have to do is the percentage of GST that you have on your bill, you have to go and give it to the government. It's not complicated. You don't even need a professional like myself to do it. So that GST is a tax on your business transactions. Everybody has to pay it.
Which people have to understand that we're not exempt from. It's just that we're exempt from paying income tax.
Yes.
Which is
So everyone has to look at GST as like a fixed expense. Like it's like your rent, your salary, whatever. You're running a business, GST is part of it. You have to pay it. So
okay. Moving on. I want to end with this segment, and because you're the first non-Naga to have, you must feel like a Naga by now. But the first non-Naga to be on the podcast, and I do want more to come in. And I besides getting to know you as a person and what you do, like how we discussed till now, and you sharing your knowledge and experience on your expertise, I want to know about your relation with Nagaland, relation with Nagas, and also like your perspective on Nagaland and Nagas. It can be in general, it can be in some areas in specific, and some of the good things, some of the bad things, we should be able to take it. Everyone should be able to take it with a pinch of salt, and should happily take in the positives also,
So my first experience with Nagas, I think, started in college, 97, when I joined Delhi. And ever since then, I think there's been no looking back. Great, I had some super friendships, and I still have most of them quite strong. That was my first exposure. I had a few ex-girlfriends who were also Nagas. That was another area of exposure. Today, I quite enjoy. I've been here for almost 8 years.
Yeah, that's a long time.
I love living here, and it's nice. It's a mix of stress and whatever the usual things that you have in life, but also it's so peaceful. Like people are nice. Everyone you meet is nice. The weather is good, at least in Kohima. It's great.
Right.
Views are nice. So it's been a lovely experience. I really like it. Some of the things that I think I would probably suggest, hopefully, that in the future will fix is the general focus on education is a bit weak. People's interest in studying and getting academically stronger. Right. I don't mean everyone. I mean some people is a little on the lower side. That could be something that's worked upon. There are great schools here, colleges also. General professionalism when it comes to work is a bit challenging. We've had some crazy instances when we have organized a trek to Zuku and the guide doesn't show up at 6 a.m. and the guests are standing out in December and it's quite cold. We've had some instances where the drivers don't come on time. So these are small things, I mean, I can relate to it from my area of experience.
Correct.
You go to a business and then the guys are not there. You're waiting in the shop for a couple of hours. Those sort of things. Those areas need to be tweaked and fitted. It's just basic courtesy and business ethics. But apart from that, I think I absolutely enjoy being here. It's a great experience for me. I think I've lived all over. I've lived in many small towns and cities across the country, but never this long. I think 8 years is probably the longest I've ever lived in any place.
Exactly, 8 years
so I do like it. I enjoy it. And thanks to all my friends here, I feel very comfortable. I have never had an uncomfortable moment here. So I'm,
in the sense of how you're being treated, or
in every manner, in every possible manner. And therefore, I've been here for 8 years and with no major plans of moving anywhere.
That's a great testament to show that.
I'm very happy. So.
Yeah. And just with the people now, leaving Nagaland aside, with the people, in your opinion, because you've been here now, you know the Nagas very well. You've known us from. I mean, you've had friends from way before, but literally living in Nagaland, seeing us everywhere.
Yep.
Give us some of the pros and cons of generalizing a little bit, but the ones that stand out, some things that you appreciate, some things that you wish were a little different about Nagas.
How do I get this right without getting
getting into trouble? Let's start with the easy one, the things that you like about
So I think everyone's very friendly. That's nice. It's very unusual that you can like Hornbill, for example, or around festivity time, everyone's nice and happy. Christmas time, it's so great. You can actually just walk down the street and start talking to anyone.
Yes.
And it'll be a happy, pleasant, laughing sort of conversation, which is very rare, I think, anywhere in this world today. So that's something that I really enjoy. People are generally very well behaved,
right,
which is again rare. What I would fix, yes, as I mentioned earlier, I think the general work ethic and the interest in being on your own feet and having a job or having a career, and I may be saying that because I'm very much like that. That's probably something that I see or stands out.
I totally agree with you on this. Yeah.
The move away from expecting the government to give you stuff to going out there and trying to do it yourself. I know, of course, that has changed in the last few years.
Right.
I've seen more businesses pop up in the last couple of years than I have in the previous 5 years. So that's definitely changing.
But I like the point you made about this professionalism. This is something I agree with you 100%. I think a lot of Nagas will agree with you and me on this, is that professionalism. You're saying your line of work, but this cuts across the board. whether it's with sports, music, just office, any regular job. Professionalism is a big issue that needs to be addressed in Nagaland. And I don't know where it stems from that we're a little lackadaisical with our attitude towards this thing, but unfortunately have to sort of stereotype the whole Nagas as this, but we are, I think.
So one thing that I saw that has changed is earlier everyone would mention that there's no access to things, there's no great facilities here, this time, but now everything's changed. In the last 24 months, that access is available to everyone. Everything is available online. If you want to build a skill, you can go online and you can do it. So now it's up to you. So now all those excuses are out of the way.
And yes, and just on that note also about what you said about the government also, like people being too over reliant on the government. Yes, they have many shortcomings. They are to be blamed for a lot of things, and they should be doing more. I get that, but you to be at home complaining all day about you're not this because of them, or you're not getting this because that's not the way to go about. Like they are there for a reason, of course, to be providing us with a lot of things, but we need to go and
their role is policy making and facilitation. At the end of the day, the person who's got to do it is you and me. You can't expect the government to be doing things to help you out.
But
to a certain
definitely,
extent, yes,
but definitely they should be doing more. We can't. There's no two ways about that. Do you see yourself settling down in Nagaland?
No, not like that.
But okay, then how long do you plan to stay, or like what's your? Do you have like a?
For the last 3 years, I've been saying next year. And there's some reason that comes up that pushes it forward. So for now, I don't think I'm going anywhere for the next 2 years at least. Whether I settle down here or not, unlikely.
But you never know.
But you never know. It's true. But I've lived a life where every few years I've moved somewhere, taken up a new place, started something different, whatever. So I don't know when that urge will hit. So when that does, I probably will make that move. But till then, I'm here.
Right.
And I'm actually really enjoying this mix of my CA work and my tourism work. So it's keeping me on my toes, and I really enjoy it because there's so much to do, so much to learn, and that's what I like. I want to be. If I'm doing the same thing over and over again,
it becomes redundant Great segue into us wrapping up, and I want to wrap up this podcast on just asking you, where does the future lie for Rohan? With your career, is it leaning towards the sea? You obviously said that you like a mix, but leaning this side, that side. What are your eventual plans? Are there any big things coming up? Do you want to dabble in something new that
So
where does the future lie for Rohan?
So the CA firm is going to stay
for sure,
definitely, because it pays the bills. It may not be as exciting work as tourism.
Correct.
It definitely, but financially it is the smarter of the two. Travel, we want to adapt now. We have to find how to do it. So for one thing, we're rolling back on all the tours and planning stuff because it's very risky right now. We want to eventually end up having a chain of small cottages.
Your own property.
That would be, if I get that, that'll be wow. But I don't know how long it's going to take us to get there. We have the opportunity very soon to try our hands out with one. So if we can figure that out and we can get that model right, I think that'll be great.
Then it becomes an automatic process. Yes.
So these two additional things, I think my goal is to become an expert in something. That's something that, as a child, I always wanted to. I've always been an average over everything. I want to find something that I can do and become really good at it. So, and I'm 42 years old, so I've got very
42 years. That's young.
It's about time I became an expert on something. So
but I think you're doing a great job in both. Like if you have your own firm with the chartered accounting, you have very successful. And I think it's a really nice thing that Nagas should be happy that we have something like India Trails. Although you cater to the rest of the Northeast also, but to have a company like yours, I know there are some other companies that are doing great work as well. So, but it needs more. We need more, and and it needs to keep getting better and bigger.
Thank you for saying that.
If we need to market Nagaland as a whole, like you said, starting from A to Z, accommodation, transportation, services like yours, everyone has to step up, and it has to. We have to step up to the next level if we really want to create this into like how we were saying, a tourist economy. And on that note, we'll wind up. I'll want you to quickly give a few messages. The message, 1 to family, 2 to friends, and friends if you've, especially someone you've lost touch with, and 3rd is to the Nagas in general. Can be any sort of advice, message.
Okay,
so you can take a 3rd one is you can take a minute to just formulate this in your head. Family,
so
friends, yeah.
to my family, thank you for believing in me after I quit my job and always being there whenever I needed. It wasn't easy in the beginning, isn't easy now, but thank you so much. To my friends, you've always been around, so thank you again. I've lost touch with many of my friends in the south, and don't worry, I'm coming back. I will catch you and hound you like I did earlier. To my Naga friends who are here, I think my message would be continue being as happy and friendly as you always have been. I would ask you to be a little more aggressive on the career side, on your profession and what you'd like to do in the future. But overall, I think I have nothing more than praise for all of you. So thank you very much. I've been here for 8 years and I've never felt more comfortable than I have over here. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Great message. Once again, thanks, Rohan. I mean, I had really a real great time with this conversation.
Likewise.
And, I'm glad that you've had a good experience for the past 8 years. And thank you for making a good experience for the other people that come outside and, to experience Nagaland.
Thank you for doing this. These shows have been great because I've been watching all your shows and the perspective that you get from some of the people that you already know is fantastic because you don't know that they think that way and it's great. It's fantastic.
That is the goal.
A way of pulling out some stuff.
Anyway, thank you so much once again. Hope to see you soon.
I'll see you.